Hi, I'm Jess.
Hi, I'm Kristen.
And welcome to ReDIScover, a space where we celebrate the childlike qualities that make up the essence of who we are while engaging with the world around us, both authentically and imaginatively.
Nothing is off the table here, and we talk a little bit...
or a lot.
About, well, everything.
Around here, we're always rediscovering, sharing empowering stories, and connecting our hearts and minds with every facet of life.
While we, of course, talk about the real stuff,
we invite you to be a part of the conversation as we broaden our perspectives, release limitations,
and grow to create our most joyful and fulfilling lives together.
So come along with us as we rediscover all the best parts of you
and bring a little bit of magic into your day.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jess.
Hi, I'm Kristen.
And welcome back to this week's episode of ReDIScover. We're continuing on our spiritual journey this month of February 2022. And today we're going to infuse two of our all-time favorite topics, talking about spirituality and relating it to concepts that are featured in Disney movies.
I think because we've lived most of our lives in this space of like loving Disney, but also carrying those childhood stories into adulthood and seeing them as sort of like safe havens in all of the tumultuous seasons of life, and having this place to come home to, and these characters and these stories that will always have something new to offer us. And so we've found a lot of spiritual empowerment and growth in these stories, and we're here with someone today who feels the same way and has her own unique perspective.
We wanted to bring on a special guest to help contribute to this conversation.
We'd love to introduce everyone to our sweet friend Emily.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Emily. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey.
You're welcome. Emily, we've been friends since the early days of the internet, where the Disney community emerged. We've watched each other go through so many journeys, and Emily is originally from the UK, half French, and she's worked at Epcot as a cultural representative and has also dabbled into other areas of Disney around the world.
I have also performed for Disney Cruise Line, and I am now currently at Shanghai Disney.
Yay!
We're recording right now from 3 different continents.
Whoa, that's cool.
That's
so
insane.
cool. Yeah.
That's so
Actually
cool.
surprised, Emily, that you're not the one in Europe this time around, because usually
That's so true. We've all kind of switched around.
It's so funny. We thought Emily would be the perfect guest for this topic because I feel like, Emily, you not only embody the spirit of the sweetest of all Disney characters, whoever they may be, but you just remind me of this gentle fairy, and like you have a very, very warm energy and a beautiful spiritual outlook. And I think that this is just going to be such a fun conversation.
Well, that's so kind. And I don't want to cry in the first couple of minutes of this podcast, but thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Whenever I picture you, I picture like the book, The Secret Garden, and like ethereal light
God.
around you, like wildflowers growing everywhere.
That's literally the biggest compliment. Oh my God.
Emily even has twinkle lights behind her in the Zoom video right now.
I do.
Perfect.
Guilty.
So for today's structure of our episode, we each decided on a Disney movie that resonates with us, that has spiritual concepts that we can pick out or we can relate to or we feel really passionate about. And each of us are going to go through each of those movies and point out the spiritual components and the plot points that correspond to that. So I think this is going to be really fun.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So excited.
So we're going to have Emily start with her analysis of the movie she chose, which is one of all of our favorite all-time movies. And I am so excited to hear your thoughts on this, because this is a very spiritual movie.
Yes.
Whether or not
Oh my gosh.
you realized it.
Yeah. I have decided to talk about Frozen 2.
Yay!
I'm going to preface this by saying I truly am Frozen trash. So I have a lot of love for the Frozen universe. I think for me, Frozen 2, especially, Frozen 1 is great, but Frozen 2 is on another level of wonderful. And in my opinion, it's probably one of the most spiritual and profound Disney movies. And like, don't get me wrong, all Disney movies have such beautiful and profound messages within them, but I really love how Frozen 2, it imparts the wisdom in a way that's more grown up and less sugar-coated, like, which I really like. It feels more deep, and there are so many spiritual themes within Frozen 2, but I think the one that feels the strongest to me and the one that resonates the most with me is self-discovery and spiritual awakening. And without literally quoting the movie, but I kind of have to, stepping into your power.
That's such a good line. You have to.
Yeah. For me personally, I'm sure that everyone else can probably relate to this as well, but something that leads us to the most amount of self-discovery is often the unknown, as I'm sure we've probably all experienced at some point especially within the past couple of years. And also whether we choose to step into that deliberately or whether it's been like thrust upon us. And I love that the movie literally starts with Elsa encountering this unknown thing that's almost causing her discomfort by ignoring, and it niggles at her until she decides to take action, even though in doing so she can't see how her life is going to unfold. And she's unsure, she's a bit scared, yet she knows. And I'm sure that we can, like, so many of us can relate to this. She knows that if she doesn't follow that calling, that niggle is just going to get bigger and bigger until she just has to follow it. It's just her destiny too.
I think that is such a powerful thing to tap into, that whole concept, because I feel like as a human being going on a spiritual journey, or even if you don't categorize it as one, there are things that happen in life that start knocking at your door essentially, and you don't always want to answer the call, because if you answer the call, sometimes you have to lose certain things, or sometimes you go on a different path. And Elsa, I mean, she didn't want to lose her family. She finally was reunited with Anna. They all lived together. They had this beautiful thing going on, especially at the beginning of the movie. There was a whole song about some things never changing because they loved it. But the reality is that Elsa needed to grow and step into her purpose and power. And by doing so, it took a lot of courage. And I think that is something that can translate to a life journey outside of the movie as well. I've had experiences like that too, where I've had to let go of things and I didn't want to. And it's led me on a bigger path of expansion. But yeah, it takes a lot of bravery, that's for sure.
It does. Yeah. It's amazing how much discomfort can lead you to a place that's even more comfortable than you were originally, that you didn't think you could find by following that.
Yeah. And I love the imagery around the Enchanted Forest and how they're like, the Enchanted Forest will change you. And it's like this place that you have to, it wasn't the ultimate destination, as she realized when she got in there, but you have to go through this process of like encountering these things. And of course, in the film, they're, you know, different spirits, but these things that alter you. And she found herself reevaluating what she knew. You know, they were like, well, what is the truth, you know, about the past? What is the truth of our people and our kingdom? What, you know, what do we have to unlearn to uncover the actual truth? And not only to understand where we come from better and to restore that, but to also restore the place and the people who have been affected equally. And I think that's also a story for our time as well.
Absolutely.
When they're in the forest, she says something about like fear can't be trusted. And I was like, oof. I just remember the first time I saw that being like, oof, big oof. That's
so hard.
So true. And I think that that's a hard thing to remember, especially, you know, when you're in an uncomfortable season of life. Anxiety is heightened. And when you're experiencing anxiety, that fear can have like this really insidious way of getting under your skin and telling you all these things, you know, like the story I'm telling myself is something Jess and I talk about all the time. All these things that are not true with a capital T about you, about your experience, about where you're going, or if you can even get there. And to just be able to continue to remind yourself, like, my fear can't be trusted. My fear is not my ally. I think in the film, she had Anna to be that advocate for her when she couldn't, because Anna sees her as this strong and powerful and like invincible person. And just to know that there is someone who loves her so unconditionally, I think
absolutely
that was the advocate that could eradicate her fear.
Yeah, I feel like Anna in Frozen 2 really is to Elsa the certainty that Elsa doesn't have within herself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so beautiful.
I love that.
Tying to our episode from last time too about soulmates, I really think that Anna was Elsa's soulmate. I think they were meant to be sisters because they balance each other like yin and yang, you know. They're very where Elsa lacks, Anna has an overabundance and vice versa.
No, I agree.
Yeah, you can really see how Anna represents very much the physical, the materialistic, like the real. And Elsa, on the other hand, is like the channel to the spiritual. They're not whole without one another.
Yeah, I mean, that's how the movie ended, was Elsa was in the spiritual environment that she lived in, and Anna was in Arendelle, which is, you know, the real world, but they were constantly connected.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Another theme that I really love in the movie is near the beginning again is the fog element. After Anna, Elsa, Kristoff, Olaf, Sven, they all like go on to their adventure into the unknown. I feel like that fog could metaphorically represent like so many different things for everyone personally, but also just as a whole society. In Frozen 2, the fog descends onto the Enchanted Forest, and the elements and the spirits fall onto Arendelle, and they call on Elsa to heal the ancestral trauma. But in real life, the universe will manifest fog to lead us to where we're meant to be.
Yeah. Because when you can't rely on the usual constructs and the comforts that you know, you have to get resourceful. And we forget sometimes when we get too comfortable that we are resourceful beings, and we are adaptive, and we are capable, and we can trust the process. But it seems so daunting when we're, you know, in a comfortable position, and we're like, well, why would I ever want, you know, to leave this? Why would I ever want anything to change, you know?
Yeah, and we're such habit-ridden beings that I feel like we all just resist change so much. But change is such a beautiful thing.
We're so stubborn.
It's really funny.
Are.
It's so funny. I was just thinking, I really did not handle change well when I was younger. And now I've kind of put myself on this path of life where I'm changing things constantly, I think, to try and feel less of a jar when things do change. I think that's really interesting that I subconsciously have done that for so many years. But yeah, change is not the easiest thing, especially when, you know, things are so beautiful and going well. Like, you don't want to let it go. But sometimes you do need to for that evolution and healing. And I think healing was such a key point that you just brought up for not only their family, but their whole community and neighboring communities that they were clashing with. Show Yourself was one of the most pivotal spiritual songs too. When I was watching the Frozen 2 documentary as well, they mentioned how hard it was to write that song, because I think it needed to be so carefully crafted to be that pivotal point of the movie. And they did it. They definitely did it. But it was so interesting too how she kind of went through so many different parts of that glacier on Ahtohallan. And, you know, so many were beautiful and they had reflections and memories of her past. And she went down into the depths of it to like come out and evolve into her true self, quote unquote. And oh my gosh, I'm getting chills talking about it. Like, Ahtohallan was the representation of the whole thing. All in one place.
It was beautiful.
But you don't always get that. You kind of have to have retrospect in life to get the full journey, to see where you went through your experiences and your memories and went through that deep pressure. So it was a really beautiful, tangible way to view it as an audience.
I agree.
It just resonates so well with that idea of like, oh, I've been searching for this thing and it's been inside me the entire time. Like, I've always had it. I can't go grab it. I can't go like find it and hold it and keep it. It's just me.
Yeah.
And like, how empowering is that? Like, how much more daring and trusting and brave and courageous would we feel if we knew that about ourselves?
Exactly. I feel like we're so quick as humans, as individuals, to seeking outside sources for validation, for strength, for support. And I think this song it resonates so strongly because it really does. It reminds us that it's about us. It's all within us, that strength, that validation, that support that we are seeking. It's right here, and it always has been, and it always will be. It's such a good song. One sidestep that I also really love about Frozen 2 is that the movie literally conveys that the four elements are not all there is. And there is so much more beyond the physical realm that we live in. And I just really like that.
Yeah, that was a sneaky concept they put in there. I really
Yeah, it's not one you pick up on too if you're not already, like, it plays to the curious one.
Exactly.
There's something else out there, like these gut feelings that I have, or the intuitions that I have, or the things I feel called to. Like that's also an element, an energy source that I'm experiencing. That's not just in my head. I think we're really quick to convince ourselves like, oh, I'm just in my head or whatever. I'm just getting in my head. Well, maybe you're not. Maybe this is your truth because you've been experiencing something that other people just can't see.
Exactly. No one else can hear the voice that Elsa hears the whole way through the movie. And is it her spirit guide? Is it her? We don't actually really know, even at the end of Show Yourself, which I like. It's kind of never fully answered. Also, the fact that she is the fifth spirit. So it is literally said in words, there is more than just the four elements, because Elsa. I'd also like to just send some love to Anna.
Yes.
Oh,
she's a huge part.
She Next is. Right Thing.
Yeah. And Next Right Thing is such a spiritual song too, because I mean, whether you're looking at it in the lens of grief or just going through life and making it through steps, if you are in a challenging season or just going through a season of building or moving forward, that whole song is literally about taking one step at a time instead of looking at the whole picture. Because if Anna was only looking at the whole picture, she would have never known what to do in those final moments of the movie where her precision was required to be successful in that healing. That song, I'm sure that changed lives, because that is a very, very vulnerable song and it cuts really deep.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I feel like it's potentially the most real and the most human song Disney's ever released.
Yeah. And I think it's no coincidence that, not to like say the other two films we're going to talk about, but I think it's interesting that all of the films we chose were not films we grew up with. They're more recent Disney films, because I think that more recently Disney is kind of saying like, maybe we need to unpack the things that people are actually going through. This, like, not to say that the films we grew up with don't have those themes in them, but they're not so raw. They're not so vulnerable. They're not so ubiquitous. And I think they're getting more into that, which is so good.
That's probably why The Lion King was so revolutionary at the time, because I feel like that finally got on the borderline of what we're talking about now.
Yeah,
that's so true. I feel like the old movies were very much in the mindset of instilling hope. Now it's slowly but surely morphing into, as well as instilling hope, letting everyone feel seen through these movies, through these songs, through these stories.
Yeah, absolutely. And both are important for sure, but
absolutely.
Wow, I'm feeling like jazzed. I love this topic.
Me too.
Jazz.
I'm emotional. I'm really emotional. So
buckle up, kids.
That was a great deep dive on Frozen 2. Emily, thank you for kicking us off and for just helping us make all those connections. they're
Oh my
good things
gosh,
to
thank
talk about.
you.
Of course. And I think, Kristen, you're going to be up next with your movie of choice. This is the movie that made me think of the concept for this episode, actually.
Yes.
Because it's
Yes.
so
Wow.
clear.
It's I have so many feelings
surprise
about
me.
I have so many feelings about this movie. And I'm just we need to just get started because it's gonna be a journey. So the movie that I chose is Moana, again, a more recent Disney film. The first thing, the kind of overarching thing throughout the whole film is the knowing who you are and what you're called to, and sort of the balance between those two things, like letting your knowing be, no pun intended, but like the wind in your sails when the external circumstances are trying to steer you off course, or the culture that you exist in is trying to tell you like, oh, you shouldn't do that, or that's not right or normal, or whatever the overwhelming norm is for any space that you exist in, and just letting that knowing guide you through the process, even when it's difficult, even when you feel like you don't have the support, especially not having the support of people close to you. When her grandmother was kind of the only one who saw her and knew, that she had this sort of like almost like divine calling. And then when she was gone, she just felt like, well, that this is it. I'm on my own. And I just think to have like such a deep and unwavering awareness of purpose from such a young age. I mean, of course they depict it. They have to give us some context that we can visually see. So we see the ocean choose her when she's just a baby, and we see like the seashell and she walks out and the little wave comes up and like scoots her back to shore and whatever. And so she has this very deep spiritual connection to the ocean from the time she's a child, but that knowing that carries her throughout her life. And you see her try and please the people in her life and to be a good daughter and a good member of her community, and being the daughter of the chief. She knows that there are things that are expected of her and she does them well, but she also knows that this is not her path. It's not her journey. It's the one that's being chosen for her. And that journey can never be as fulfilling as the one you choose for yourself, and the one that is ultimately your calling. Because like we were saying before, like no matter how much you try to run from your destiny, it's going to pursue you. So you can say you don't want to go into the unknown, but it will come find you regardless. And she found herself kind of at that crossroads and realizing that the only way forward was to finally answer that call. And she really had to trust her instinct, especially when the odds didn't seem like they were for her. And when she's like leaning over the edge of the boat and it's dark and she's singing the I Am Moana song, the song of the ancestors, I just get chills every time, because it's such a gut thing, like this just inherent knowing, and sometimes having to be reminded in those darker moments, wait a minute, this is who I am. There is nothing that can derail me or shame me or put me into a box. There is a lot of power in being chosen versus choosing. Like I think some of us choose a path in life and some of us feel as though our path in life chose us. I think we're raised in a society that tells us like, well, you have to go to school for this many years and then you have to choose what you want to do with your life. And there's really not a lot of narrative or conversation around like, well, what do you feel called to? Like even when you're a kid or when you're in, your teenage years or in college or whatever, like nobody ever says to you, like, what do you feel called to? What resonates with your soul? Like nobody has these conversations.
That's such a huge point, because I think when a lot of people go through a spiritual awakening and they try to come back to themselves, I think one of the first things that people often suggest is to think back to when you were a kid and think to what you were drawn to, because you get all of these layers of these shoulds and concepts of things that will make a lot of money or give you security or XYZ, instead of, dipping into that gift that you were giving. Maybe it was something artistic. Maybe it was something in the healing arts. Maybe it was, something that you just kind of toned out because you thought you weren't supposed to do that because it's not socially a norm. Socially for her, going out into the sea and past the island was a big no. Like nobody should do that. And she followed her gut, and that took a lot of strength to get past that barrier.
Especially because, I think the film does a really good job of not villainizing her parents. They're not evil people. They just want to protect her. And being young, they probably also perceive her as naive, and they might see how many times do we think, oh, you're so young? Like people get married young. We're like, oh, they're so young. Or, for me, like, I mean, I left a full scholarship to the college I was attending to go pursue a dream at Disney. And the amount of people that said, you're so stupid. That's crazy. What's wrong with you? Now you're never going to finish, whatever. And I just was like, no, like, this is the next step for me. Like, you don't understand. And I sort of felt like, I'm sure. I mean, both of you, and I'm sure, some of you listening too. And I think that pretty much everyone else close to me in my family, especially, was not supportive at all. And that was really hard to disappoint them, and not only to disappoint them, but then when I had hard days at Disney to go, were they right? Like, maybe I can't do this. Maybe I shouldn't have done this. Maybe this was wrong. And I'm, watched all my friends graduate when I should have graduated, and maybe move and get good jobs and things. And now, at the age where like friends of mine are getting married or having kids and things, and I'm not in that season of life yet, going, am I just like always one step behind? Or am I just always meant to kind of like exist on the outside of this circle of people who seem to have it right, and I just got it wrong? Like, where did I get it wrong? But then I look at my life and I think, you know what? No, like I still feel content, and I still feel right. And I think if you feel a dissonance within yourself, that's when you need to make a change. But if you don't, then you have to look externally and go, it's not me, it's them. It's not that their path is wrong or mine is wrong. They're just different. It was obviously very hard for Moana too, to disappoint her family and go against, what they thought was best for her, and to follow her gut. Especially when you say things like the ocean chose me. Like, there are certain things like, excuse me, what? The ocean did what now?
I feel like we're just taught from such a young age to play it safe and to follow the more logical path, and to be comfortable and to not disappoint family and friends, kind of like you said, instead of listening to and pursuing what calls to us and what sets our souls on fire. And I just think that this movie does such a wonderful job at setting that reminder that by not following our callings, we're actually doing somewhat of a disservice, not only to ourselves, but to the rest of the world.
Yeah, I agree. Well, because
if Moana didn't follow her intuition in that case, her whole island could have been destroyed, because
absolutely
she could have just sat there and gone with the status quo and listened to everyone. But what would have happened? Everything was drying up. It was becoming destructive, essentially. And not all cases, are that detrimental that you can see, but there are side effects to not following your intuition that, I'm sure we've all had experiences like that, where it's like, oh, I knew that, I should have followed it.
Exactly.
It's interesting. And, it's not like you get punished for not following it, but it's a lesson every time within there.
And I think then you miss out. Like, we all want to be a part of something greater than ourselves. That's very, very inherently human. But I think that, there's that whole, everything tends to work out for the best, and the universe tends to right itself eventually. Maybe like something would have happened and the island would have ended up being saved. Maybe, maybe Maui would have been able to do it. Maybe some other force would have intervened. But then Moana would not have been able to be a part of that. She would not have been able to go on her own journey of self-actualization. She would not have been able to contribute to her people and to her family in a way that felt very right and aligned for her. And so I think that that's a good thing to keep in mind in life. Like, maybe this thing will work out. Maybe someone will adopt this animal, or maybe someone will, enter into this dark space of humanity and do something about it. But it could also be me. and I don't have to save it, but maybe I'm just meant to be part of it, whatever the outcome. Maybe I'm just meant to show up.
Yeah. Moana didn't know how. She just knew that she had to leave. She knew that she had to get onto that ocean. She didn't think about the hows, how she was gonna fix whatever she had to fix. And it's only in hindsight that she realized how much of a profound effect following her own heart and what set her soul on fire had on the rest of the world.
But that whole concept of like, there's more beyond the reef. And she was just like, there's more beyond the reef, beyond the reef, beyond the reef. And it became this kind of metaphor for just what else might be out there. And the people who were content living in a space, were they actually content, or were they responding to their fear? And just being willing to kind of go beyond the reef and test your limits and fail, like inevitably fail at some point. You have to. But her grandmother had a great capacity for that. You know, as Moana's kind of spirit guide, she sees what the more narrowly focused or narrowly minded people could not see. And I think when Moana is out on the water, you just breathe a sigh of relief for her, because you sense her freedom and you sense her, like something being stirred in her that she can't adequately explain until she realizes, like, oh, this is who I was descended from. She knew she was called to the ocean before she even knew she was descended from Voyagers, I think is an important thing to fixate on, because it wasn't like, well, these were my ancestors, so obviously I have to do this. You know, this is the family business, so I have to go into it. She just knew who she was, and then found out that there was some like actual truth and validation there. But obviously that whole, like, the call isn't out there at all, it's inside me, I think is something we talked about from Frozen 2 as well. Like it's in you the whole time. It's not something external. It was there all along. And when she says, like, come what may, I know the way, obviously doesn't refer to actually knowing where she is physically going, but when everything is upside down or when we're in a fog, knowing who you are, I think, can get you through a lot. When she's walking toward Tafiti and she sees this like monster, but she knows, like, it's just because she's had her heart stolen. Like, of course you would act that way if you didn't have a heart. And I just find that moment and that little song so powerful when she says, you know, they have stolen the heart from inside you, but this does not define you. Like, this is not who you are. I know who you are. You know who you are. I think that that's so powerful and something that we need to do more for the people in our lives who are going through difficult seasons, for ourselves when we're going through difficult seasons, to just show a little more grace.
In regards to Tafiti, literally at the end of the day, all it takes is just to have a bit more empathy for everyone on the planet, is just to have a bit more empathy in regards to everything.
Because I think some of the most destructive, whether you're a volcano or a human being, there might be something in there that was really traumatic, or you might be missing a part of yourself because of an experience you went through, or in that case, Tafiti's heart was stolen. You know, you don't feel like yourself. And a lot of people in those situations do project and cause harm on others, because it's like that phrase, like, hurt people hurt people. But I think, when you find someone who can provide empathy, like Emily just said, that's when barriers are broken down and you can see where the healing needs to take place. And I'm going off of our soulmates episode. I just keep thinking about it. I really think her grandmother was a soulmate in the sense of her guide, and she became not only her on earth soulmate, but her spirit guide on the other realm when she became a Ray, because, you know, animals can be depicted as spirit guides. And also, I think Maui was one of her soulmates too. Like, I think they were meant to cross paths so she could have a partner on this journey, you know, not to be the savior, but to be the partner and the person who could help her, like with the vehicle and the extra hands when she needed them, and the insight that she didn't have on her own. So Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's so powerful that he was literally a demigod and she ended up kind of saving him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's huge. Moana is an incredible story of healing ancestral trauma and the intuition of following her gut and everything Kristen just said. It's just so evident. And I think when I started having my inklings of a beginning of a spiritual awakening, that was right after or around when Moana came out. And that it just blew my mind
Yeah.
because the themes are right there in front of you.
Mhm.
And we aren't taught
Yeah.
to look for spiritual themes unless you're raised to look that way or you come across them somehow and it starts resonating with you. And Moana really, like, it really opens up a lot to think about. And we're going to transition into our last movie of the discussion. And the movie that I chose for my Disney movie with a spiritual component is Tangled. And I think this movie has so many spiritual components. And when it came out, this was before I was very spiritually in tune, and rewatching it now, I get chills every time. I knew it made me emotional back then, but like now it just really hits home. I think one of the main themes that I really noticed that Rapunzel exhibits is being really connected to her inner child. I kind of mentioned this with Moana, but it's about connecting with the things that you love, especially when you're young, but anytime throughout your life. It's the stuff that she does, like her painting and her cooking and the music that she plays and knitting and reading books. All of those activities made her really connected to her. And she was very artistic. And that's, I think, why she had such a glow to her, was she was very much, even in her very terrible containment that she was experiencing, she was doing these activities that still enriched her. So once she was able to get out of there and she went into the kingdom and she was dancing with everyone and she was painting and she had flowers in her hair and all these beautiful things. And I think that's why people related to her so well and just embraced her as the new princess, or just as someone they loved in the village before they even knew that, because she had this joy, you know, coming out into the world where she was really still connected to that youthful side of her. She was able to expand on them and grow into them more as an adult as she transitioned out. I think another thing about Rapunzel, and we talked about this with Moana, so I'm going to actually take another interesting spin on it, but Rapunzel had a very, very strong intuition, as we all know. She knew she needed to go see those lanterns. She knew they were for her. She had no evidence of that, except for the fact they were randomly on her birthday every year. And she felt in her soul like she needed to go see those. And I think that is really good evidence of something that you see and subconsciously, you know, there's something else bigger out there. Like we were kind of talking about with Frozen, like these lanterns were symbolism for that, for Rapunzel. But the most interesting thing about her intuition and this whole concept was that she had a very, very large critic and a very, very loud voice constantly telling her to doubt herself. And it was Mother Gothel, of course. She not only would tell her not to trust her intuition on these lanterns, she was totally manipulating and deceiving her on that, but she would criticize her appearance. She would criticize the fact that she thought Flynn Rider actually genuinely cared for her. She was this constant voice of telling her not to trust what she felt. And it's really honestly impressive that Rapunzel was able to still be so strong and to still know so deeply that these things were true to her. And I think that's really, really powerful for Rapunzel as a person, like to be able to know that, no, I believe this. And you're supposed to be able to trust your mother, but something in her gut was telling her that that was not the case. So I find that very interesting.
Yeah.
And a really good
agree.
example of trusting yourself. I think to touch on the soulmates aspect of this movie, I think Flynn Rider is, of course, her soulmate, which kind of dips into the romantic partner being your soulmate. However, I think that even more so before they were romantic partners, I think they were supposed to cross paths on this journey so he could help her on her journey of getting out of the tower and seeing the world and not being confined anymore. And, you know, it wasn't that he came and saved the day. It was that he came and opened up a door so they could walk through it together and they could explore together. And I think that's really beautiful. And their, you know, initial meeting was quite bumpy, if we remember. So not only did they go on that adventure together, they could have parted ways. He could have been a seasonal soulmate, but they continued, and he saw the beauty in her and she saw the beauty in his story too, when he was younger, and like these vulnerable sides of him, like sharing his name was Eugene. They built this really deep bond and connection and were able to evolve from that and grow as well. I think another really, really big theme in Tangled is standing up for yourself and having boundaries. And that again ties to Mother Gothel. A lot of times when you think of spirituality in a general sense, people are like, oh, it's about being really peaceful and not letting anything bother you and being positive. But that's not really the case, because being spiritual is really about your connection with yourself and being able to protect your energy. Just because you're a spiritual person, you're not going to live in a rainbow or like a fluffy cloud all the time. Like, you're still going to have experiences with people where you need to protect yourself and know yourself well enough to do so. And Rapunzel being able to stand up for herself and state boldly, like, no, I need to go see these lanterns. No, mother, you need to back off. She really, really needed to put space in between them, because Mother Gothel was so filled with greed and the inability to see Rapunzel as a human being, as a whole person. Instead, she just saw her as this glowing, healing hair. It completely made her not be able to see clearly, like the person that was standing in front of her. So thankfully, Rapunzel is very in tune with herself and knowing that she deserved to have the freedom to exist and go fulfill her purpose. So yeah, Tangled has a lot. There's a lot to unpack there and to relate to, but it's a beautiful movie, and it's really cool to watch it and notice new things over the years.
So true. Something I love the most about Tangled is that her initial dream is just to see these beautiful lights in the sky that have brought her joy every day on her birthday, every year. But in following that dream, it literally led her to so much more than just seeing those lights. She escaped the toxic imprisonment, literally. She found a home. She found her family. She found freedom. She found who she truly was, who I'm sure there were many moments during her childhood where she would potentially question that, who she was. And she saw herself in these lanterns, and she knew that she was connected to them in some way that just transcended just the fact that she thought they were beautiful in the sky. And by following that, she found who she was. And I think it's really beautiful. Also, just a side note, when you were talking about the hair, I recently rewatched Tangled, and I noticed way more than I ever had how insane it is how many times Mother Gothel touches Rapunzel's hair. And whenever she's looking at Rapunzel or speaking to Rapunzel, it's always about the hair. Like, honestly, if you watch it again, it will blow your mind. Even when she kisses Rapunzel's forehead, she's actually kissing her hair, not her actual forehead. Yeah, insane. Sorry, that was just a little tangent. But
no, I mean, she is really one of the most, I think, evil villains, because she is just, it's so manipulative. And I mean, of course, nobody that I know of has, magical glowing hair in real life, but she is very, very mentally and emotionally abusive to Rapunzel. And like, she has these manipulative qualities that are very, very human, and it's almost scary to watch them on screen because it's like too real.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So huge point on the boundaries there, Emily. She needs to back off the hair. But
I agree.
She is a true villain, and you know right from the very beginning of the film that this is not a person we should trust, because she is so manipulative, and she's capitalizing on Rapunzel's naivete to say, like, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're doing. Stop with the childish daydreams. Like,
Straight up
you are
gaslighting her.
You're not strong enough. You can't do that. Yeah. And of course we watch it and we go, why are you letting this person tell you who you are and what you can and can't do? But let's take a step back and kind of account for the amount of times that we've let people we don't even know tell us that, strangers on the internet and people who, we work with or coexist with in some way in school, when we were younger. And it's not only something we want to avoid, but it's something that we realize when we watch it happen to her that we've been subjected to as well. And sometimes just as unknowingly as Rapunzel experiences it. And I think Eugene showed her what freedom could feel like, because he seemed so free, but we find out that even he isn't as free as he seems, because he has, insecurities, and he changed his name and his entire identity to fit, this hero that he thought he should be. And I love that she calls him Eugene, because it's just such a testament to how she accepts him and sees him for who he is. And she doesn't need him to be a hero, because when she stops doing the back and forth of like, should I go? I don't know. I'm a despicable human being. Best day ever. When she stops like questioning herself all the time, she's able to realize that she is capable and strong, and that she can advocate for herself, and she doesn't need a hero to come rescue her from her tower, which is how the story seems like it's lining up to be. And maybe if you watch it at face value, that's your takeaway, but really she got herself out of the tower, both physically and proverbially.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that whole scene with her going back and forth with herself, I think, is one of the most relatable too.
Yeah.
Yes.
In a spiritual sense, like breaking into like, new spiritual beliefs. Like, I feel like that's a very spiritual awakening kind of experience to go through, or, just stepping into something new that you don't know. It's just, there's this back and forth tug and pull, because it's battling with everything you've ever known and all the people you've ever known and the beliefs you've been told and the things that you've kept inside of you. But then there's this newness and there's this other way that hasn't been explored yet. And stepping into that can be so scary, but you feel drawn to it.
Yeah. Again, with the humans resisting change.
Yes.
We're so bad at it.
I know. Actually, for me, the scene just before the one you were just talking about, Jess, with the When Will My Life Begin reprise,
oh yes,
is probably my absolute favorite scene in the whole movie. I actually had that song on repeat on the plane on my way to Shanghai, just because it reflects the amount of excitement, the amount of fear even that goes into setting onto a new adventure. The sense of freedom and relief almost that she's finally allowed herself to do this thing that she's wanted to do and dreamt of doing for so long. And I think everyone can resonate in that in some way.
Yeah. And I think it's such a relatable little moment that of course people kind of take the tail end of, and it becomes this very quotable, like, you get to find a new dream thing. But the moment where she's like there in the boat on the lake and the float, like it's happening. And she just has this moment where she goes, wait a minute, like I've been dreaming of this my entire life. What if it's not everything that I dreamed it would be? What if I built it up so much in my mind that it feels like a letdown? And then he's like, well, you get to go find a new dream. Oh, she's never really been allowed to dream. Like, she's had this one thing that she's held on to for so long, that is also like a freedom that she always had, but she didn't feel like she did. So she gets to say, oh yeah, like, wait a minute, I can do that. I can find a new thing to like get so excited about and dream about.
Exactly. I can have more than one dream.
You don't have a cap on the amount of dreams you're allowed to dream in a lifetime.
Yeah. You might not be able to control how one dream unfolds, but you can have control over the dreams that you do have and the things that you wish to chase and spend your life pursuing. Yeah.
Well, I feel like that's
I love these conversations.
I feel like that's a really great note to end on.
I love these conversations so much.
Yeah, and
me too.
Talking about Disney movies at such a deep level just brings so much light and so many layers to these films that we know and love. And I know that I love talking to people like you guys about them because it really makes me think about these concepts that, you know, you've seen a million times over, but there's more there and there's more there. It's like every time, you know, you go on a ride at the parks, you see something new. It's the same for the movies. Like every time, you know, you talk about them or watch them, you realize, oh my gosh, there's something else I can learn from this and something else I can take away and apply into my life. And that's why I'm so glad that the movies really focus, especially now, on things that are relatable and really focus on like the evolution of us as human beings and society and just coming back to our purpose. It's really awesome.
Absolutely. And I love that as a child, you watch these movies, maybe not the ones that we've just mentioned, but you watch them and unknowingly they're sowing little seeds in you, in your head, that growing up, once you watch either those movies again as a grown up or watch these new Disney movies, you start to really, it starts to open your eyes to, wow, yeah, my dreams are valid and my dreams can come true. And every other message that these Disney movies instill. And sometimes we're not ready to receive those messages, and further along the path we might watch the movie again and see it, and it will resonate deeper with us. And it's just so great. I feel like you could never get enough of the messages that the Disney movies instill.
Yeah, and you never know how they're going to serve you in adulthood. Like you said, like going back and watching them, they might speak to you differently, but you also never know. Exactly. Like, I think that there's power in nostalgia, but there's even more power in receiving a message that you need to hear at that perfect exact time that you need to hear it. So when you combine the two things and you take this thing that we're, you know, so nostalgic for, and you bring it into this space of like spiritual awakening, it's really powerful. And maybe we're all just like very strong empaths and we're putting ourselves in these characters' shoes and like, you know, living vicariously through them in more ways than one. But I think that it's so much more than what most people allow.
Well, that was a beautiful discussion, ladies. Thank you. Fun. Oh, Emily, we're so glad that you could join us, especially from the other side of the world. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
It was just the perfect compliment to have you today to talk about this topic. And thank you for your insights. And we hope that everyone listening got some new insights as well. And if you have any other ones that we missed, feel free to share them with us. Yeah. This topic is so interesting to us, especially as people who consider themselves to be very spiritual and Disney fans at the same time. It was really fun to dabble into this and explore this connection.
I almost want to dabble into every single Disney movie now.
I know. This could be a whole podcast in itself.
I was going to say, this could be a series. We could come back. Yeah. And everyone always has such great ideas and requests and things we've never thought of. So when Jess says, tell us your ideas or tell us what you thought or tell us whether it was to do with these movies or other ones, like we genuinely want to know.
I was watching Snow White the other day and literally I was mind blown. I hadn't watched it in quite a while and it blew my mind how Snow White is literally a manifesting queen, guys.
Isn't she?
Oh, yeah.
I was
she is.
Oh my God. She's not asking the hows. She just believes that if she wishes into this well, that her prince is going to show up, and literally instant manifestation, there he is. Same with the wishing apple. She like makes a wish on this apple that isn't really actually going to make her wish come true, but yeah, but all she knows, she sleeps for a while and then she wakes up and her prince is there. Like, I'm like, come on, girl.
Yeah, she doesn't actually suffer. She really just passes out.
Really
she's not foaming at the mouth or anything.
Yeah, she's just taking a nap.
Yeah, she's just taking a nap. Instant
siesta.
manifestation queen.
That's so true.
Yeah.
I think that it's her like innocence. It's that she just like genuinely believes in a thing, and she has no reason to believe that, well, why wouldn't this work? You know?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like, what if we just flipped the script and we were like, instead of thinking about all the reasons why it shouldn't work, just, well, why wouldn't it? Like, just
why wouldn't it? Exactly.
Stop listening to all those little. She's
yeah.
Pure. I love that. See, here we go. Here we go.
I know. Well, they've been telling us this since the very first movie, so
exactly.
I'm glad we're all on track here.
Well, it was like the whole thing with Cinderella. Like, she didn't actually want a Prince Charming. She just wanted a night off.
Exactly.
Yeah, let me out cleaning.
She just wanted to go. She just wanted to go out and dance on her night off.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Same with Ariel. She didn't want to meet Eric.
That's right.
That's right. Part of your world isn't about Eric, but he ended up being the key to her becoming a human. But she just wanted to be human.
Say it a little louder for the people in the back, Emily.
She just wanted to be human.
I actually wanted
it was just the vehicle.
I've gotten in so many fights about this. And
I'm freaking passionate about that.
I'll die on that hill with you, because I really think people need to take a step back and take a look at that.
I'm really sick of hearing the Ariel's an entitled whiny 16-year-old.
No
nonsense. She's actually a very evolved thinker, and she is trying to dispense with the prejudices that she has been indoctrinated into.
Yes.
Against human beings, because she doesn't see them as monsters. She sees them as good people that are kind of a little bit like her.
Exactly. All this nonsense about princesses not being feminist icons.
Nonsense.
Disagree wholeheartedly. Absolutely.
Well, funny you should say that, Emily, because next month is Feminism Month on ReDIScover.
Yes, I'm ready.
So thank you guys so much for listening. We will be back in 2 weeks with a brand new theme for March. So come on back. Let us know if you liked today's episode. Of course, if you have time, leave us a rating on Apple Podcasts, or
you can leave reviews on Spotify now. Did you know?
Oh, thank you.
You can. So if you're a Spotify person like myself, leave us a review over there too. Especially if you like this style of episode. Being specific and letting us know helps us to kind of format things so that they'll be the most enjoyable to listen to as well as to create. So yeah.
All right. Well, with that being said, thank you again, Emily, and thank you all for listening, and we will talk to you next time.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you for joining us on today's episode of ReDIScover.
If you haven't already subscribed, hit that button and join the ReDIScover fam.
If you're like us and you have opinions about everything, leave us a review on Apple or Spotify. Your positivity inspires our creativity, and we love hearing from you.
Join us every other Tuesday for brand new episodes full of rediscovery.
And each month has its own unique theme, so be sure to catch them all.
Follow us on Instagram at positively.kristen and at JessicaFaye508.
And check out Jess's blog at theroadjusttraveled with 1L.com.
Until next time,
bye!